Hey there, it is another episode of Pod Sothoth, a Lovecraft book club, starring me, your host, Todd Beardsley. But today I have a very special guest. It is my attorney and wife, Claire Reynolds. Hi, Claire.
I'm not a special guest.
You're special every time.
Well, I know I'm special, but I'm not a guest. I do think you should have more guests than me. And that we know people.
I don't know. You're
it.
a fan favorite.
I'm not of our three fans.
Yes. Hey,
who are amazing. I love all three of you.
Yes. Well, we did get some tweets. We got some mail, but that's at the very end of the episode.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about that now. Today, right now, this moment, we're going to talk about Dagon, which was published in
1917.
1919.
Shit.
It was written probably in 1917, but it was published in. Maybe it was 1919.
No, you're right. I was guessing.
It was published in The Vagrant.
Guessing in approximation to
Yes.
the Great War, beginning of. But he probably
Very
wrote
good.
it at the beginning. Yes.
So the narrator, who is an unnamed narrator, which is
Shocking turn of events.
Lovecraft's custom, the scene opens.
Carl. I like to think they're all Carl.
Well, that's kind of a Hunnish name. I don't think he'd be a Carl.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's get to that. Let's get to that.
So he is an American, presumably, in the Pacific. It is during the Great War, and he says something about how it is like before the Germans got real lame and bad.
Before they sunk to their later degradation.
Oh, I see nothing. I was not here. I did not even get up this morning.
So he was captured by the Germans during the Great War. But his captors are so liberal that he was able to escape with provisions and a boat and everything. He was like...
It was not just provisions. It was 5 days. Wait, no. 5 days of respond with water and provisions for a good length of time. Like,
yeah, 30 days.
Did you think, why just you? That was my question. First of all.
Yeah.
You were just like,
he's in it for himself.
Presumably you were like, packing a bag full of shit, and you're just like, here's the boat. Like, no bother to see if you can take anyone with you?
None at all.
Well, then you got what was coming to you.
We're gonna die! It's every man for himself! Help me, Leela!
He escapes his captors. He's on a life raft at sea for several days.
It's a boat. It's lifeboat.
Lifeboat. It's correct. It's not like a lost I need my boy style.
My son! Where's my boy? They took my son!
Style raft. It is a proper boat. He is at sea and he goes to sleep. He has a lot of crazy dreams. He wakes up. He is aground. What? But it's not really ground.
You might be wondering how I got here.
That's kind of how it is. It's very wet and muddy and gross, and it smells bad. It smells like rotten fish. And he's by the boat, but he figures, it'll be okay, like in a couple days.
And when I first read it, I was like, oh, come on, you're telling me how many days? 3 days?
Mm-hmm.
He sat there, but then I thought, maybe I would too. I don't know. You have your boat, you have your provisions.
You have your food
to
and your
last
water.
you for a good number of days, or however many days he said. Like, do I want to walk away? I don't know. That's a long time to sit there with nothing happening, though.
Yeah,
you can, in theory,
and there's no
walk.
birds is the other thing, right? That he's like, F this, I'm getting out of here. I'm gonna walk towards this hill that I can see, and he calls it a hummock, which is a hill. And it's nighttime, and he's like, oh man, I should have been walking at night this whole time because it's way easier. I mean, kind of duh, but he finds this hill. He goes up there, and he thought, man, I thought it was bad before, but nope, I'm on top of this hill, and everything is way worse.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, I was imagining it, I guess, looking like the moon, which he kind of describes it as that. I mean, which he would not know what it looks like to be on the moon.
But he sees, so he's on this thing, and then he sees the monolith. The monolith.
No. Let's back up.
Okay.
Let's back up.
All
Because that was interesting to me. The idea that he sees a big cavern. It's like cavern, or not a cavern, a canyon kind of a thing ahead of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So describe the geography to me. Let's go walk through it. There's a canyon, and then a river, and then the monolith.
And then there's a hill, right?
And
because
then
the
the
canyon
monolith.
drops before the hill, and then the monolith.
I
the
thought there was
monolithic
like
sculpture,
water lapping up to the monolith.
That's when he climbs down,
Okay.
right, into this valley that he didn't even know it was there because he couldn't see it. And so he gets to the valley, and then he can see the monolith like on the hill beyond.
Okay.
Right, and it's huge.
Okay. Why is it awful? Like, it sounds like it would be like, I'm imagining the Grand Canyon.
Right.
So it must not be like it was all just gray.
When I read this, I think of it as, and he says something too, where it's like, oh, even the sky was black, like it was reflecting
that's right.
mud. So like it's a very like basalt kind of colored, dark gray, blackish, mud, dirt, kind of thing. So like. Yeah, very otherworldly, and I didn't even put it together. That it's like, oh yeah, this looks like the moon.
Yeah,
and
which some people like. He's obviously a pessimist because some people would be like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. This is amazing." And
we are the Moonanites, and our culture is advanced beyond all that you can possibly comprehend with 100% of your brain.
It would still be terrifying, but it could be amazing. But he definitely reads dread into everything.
So when the moon rises up enough that he can actually like see the thing, then he sees the monolith, and he compares it. And this is the part that I really zeroed in on. He talks about it. It's all bas reliefs and it's grotesque. It's carved with like all of these creepy figures, fishmen and whatever. And he compares it to Doré, and I'm like,
I don't know what that is.
Who's Doré?
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, I gotta look that up, and then I forgot to look it up.
So Doré was a 19th century French artist. He did all kinds of stuff, but the thing I think Lovecraft is thinking of is Doré's sculpting work. He made this sculpture for the Chicago exhibition. Doré did in late 19th century, and it's called the Poème de la Vigne. It's a vase, basically. Gustave Doré, and he made this giant vase. This vase is enormous. Okay, this is what I think Lovecraft is talking about when he's comparing the monolith that he sees on the Isle of Dagon to this vase, and there'll be links in the show notes. But I'm going to show it to you, Claire, for the first time. Tell me what you see. Now, this thing is 11 feet tall.
Yeah, that's
and it's this Dionysian.
Right now, that's obviously not in Chicago right now.
It's in San Francisco. It's at the San Francisco Legion of Honor.
Okay.
And it's out. It's displayed outside, and from afar, when you see it, the little one, it is kind of disturbing, right? Like it's this vase.
It's a bunch of people,
but it's a bunch of
crucified on the side of it and trying to climb up.
Yeah, it's a bunch of really naked people doing bacchanalian
not
things.
Sexy thing. No, does it look sexy? I don't think so. It looks like they're not happy.
They don't seem to be particularly happy. They seem kind of.
There's the one guy on the top who's like, I'm number one.
Yes, so it's a whole bunch of folks, and there's like satyrs on there and cupids and all this, like very Greek, right? So it's an array of bas-reliefs of subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré, and so that's what I think he's talking about. I think he's talking about that particular sculpture.
When was it made?
So it was made in I want to say like 1847 or something.
All right, so timeline would it have been somewhere
it would have been known. Yeah.
I'm trying to like challenge your hypothesis here.
Like that's the one thing that like pops up. So like Doré also did like a bunch of wood carvings and that, but like it's this massive bronze sculpture is the thing that like when I found that I'm like, oh well, this is it. This is definitely the thing. And it feels to me like when you see it's a shame that this is an audio medium. So I urge you to look it up. There's a link in the show notes, but just look up Doré, the vintage vase in English.
Cherubs cavort with spiders and moths in illicit configurations.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of bugs on it and stuff. It's super creepy, and like it just like looks kind of weird from afar, and then when you get up close, like you see all this, it's actually revelry. So it's like that's really interesting to me, right? So that's great. And the thing ended up in San Francisco, which is interesting because this is where the character ends up in the end. So like I feel like there's a San Francisco tie into all of this.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of. Most of his stuff seems to be East Coast.
It's New England. It's Florida. It's the Dreamlands.
East Coast.
Whatever. This story is related to and connected with Call of Cthulhu, which also has a San Francisco element to it. There's also some New Orleans in Call of Cthulhu, so there's a lot more like seafaring stuff, like West Coast and Gulf and everything. Doré is the one that like I really latched onto, and I spent like an hour going down his work, and then I found this right. He has a line in there about grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer, and I'm like,
we all know Poe. Who's this other guy?
Who's Bulwer? Well, I'll tell you. Did you look it up?
No. I was like, Todd will look that up. I don't need to.
Exactly. So Bulwer is almost certainly referencing Edward Bulwer Lytton from 1870s. So similar to Doré, same period. And he's probably referencing Vril, The Power of the Coming Race, which is a story by Bulwer, and it really took off. It was also just called The Coming Race initially. It is a story about a race of energy beings that people the Hollow Earth. If this sounds familiar, don't worry. Yes, it's Nazi shit. So
when you said The Coming Race, I thought maybe he meant like an actual race, a foot race.
But maybe. Coming.
Yeah. I don't know, it was going to be
I've been in coming
soon.
races before.
Yeah. Oh boy. No, it was a thing that's going to be happening soon.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not Nazis, but it's
definitely Nazis.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
Coming Race was a major inspiration of Nazi occultism. It gets the Vril itself was like real tropey, like in the late 19th century, where it was like it's a cure to what ails you kind of thing. In the story, Vril is this fluid that's produced by this angelic Hollow Earth race that like cures everything and gives you psychic powers and also makes you like a better being and person. So yeah, if you thought we were going to get away from any of the racism in Lovecraft, of course, it's just this one guy.
He was not a Nazi. Like
he was not a Nazi.
There yet.
There were no Nazis in 1870.
No,
but
people took his.
Yeah.
Is this is there a direct lineage?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, okay.
So this is in Bulwer's like occultist phase, basically, and there are people who believe that like, oh no, yeah, it's fiction. But not really. It's not really fiction. It's like actually true. And there's actually a Hollow Earth and there's these angelic energy beings. And two things came out of that. One, the whole Nazi Hollow Earth thing, and two, H.G. Wells. Like H.G. Wells is influenced by Bulwer, and which is crazy that I've never heard of this guy before, right? Like you'd think with all of this and being the person that I am, and I like Lovecraft and I like, old sci-fi, like
there's
it
so
never
many
came
other
up.
Nazi things going on. I mean,
right. It's all just drowned out in all the current Nazism. I really feel like the hard right in America really should embrace this Hollow Earth thing again. Like that would be really helpful. Because then we could just point at that.
Yeah. Ad break. As I told my children the other day, if you find yourself on the opposite side of the Nazis, you're in a good spot.
You're probably in a good spot. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a shame the Nazis ruined the whole Hollow Earth thing, but
there's a lot of things they ruined, that was the least of the problems.
I guess so. He could also be referring to the grotesque imagery of Bulwer when he wrote England and the English, because it's all about being English. I was reminded of this tweet I saw in 2021. This is how hard this tweet has stuck with me, and I'm going to have a link to it in the show notes.
It's only 2022 right now.
I know, but it was January of 2021 was this tweet.
Okay.
And it just kept getting retweeted.
That's true. Like if a tweet lasts more than a day, then
I'm going to read it to you verbatim, and it's by Bang Bang Ducks on Twitter.
All right.
And he wrote, HP Lovecraft was like, ooh, I'm so scared of a mysterious vile island that rises out of the sea, is inhabited by fish-like pallid-fleshed pseudo-humans, follows a strange and horrible religion, and has an incomprehensible inhuman tongue. but I love England. I love it. Yes. This tweet. I think of this tweet probably once a week.
That's good. That's funny.
So anyway, in the story,
oh, yeah, he's there.
So he's there. He sees the stuff. He's like, "Oh my gosh, look at all this!" And he's like, kind of interested too. There's a note about like, I had like the scientists' appreciation of this thing of like this archaeological find.
Yeah, it's like the ancestor of the Piltdown Man.
Piltdown Man, right? And so that was my third thing.
I had to look up like, when did they figure out Piltdown Man was a scam? And
so exactly. So Piltdown Man, when Lovecraft is writing and publishing this 1970 to 1919, as an amateur scientist, right? Like Lovecraft, we talked about that in From Beyond, in the From Beyond episode. Go listen to that one. Lovecraft did read scientific magazines, maybe not so much journals, but like he probably would have heard of Piltdown Man, probably would have taken it at face value like many people did, right?
Who would? I mean, we didn't know back then.
So Piltdown Man it is basically the scientific hoax that I remember hearing about like in high school. Like we learned it as a subject of like, this is where science goes wrong when you like actually go out of your way to forge things. Piltdown Man was not, so it was a sample of a skull that was found by these English archaeologists. One in particular, whose name I forget, and I don't care because he's a big scammer douchebag.
Scammy McScammerson.
Scams a lot because he's English. He's not Irish.
Scam likely.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dungeons and Daddies.
Dungeons and Daddies, best Dungeons and Dragons podcast in the world. So Piltdown Man was a forgery, and it was composed of a human like top part skull. Like most of the, when you think of a skull, like a Halloween skull, like it's a human skull. It had an orangutan jaw and then chimpanzee teeth in the jaw. So that should be pretty much the giveaway that it was not just like, oops, I accidentally mixed up my bones.
You got your orangutan and my human.
That's right. It was definitely put together in an effort to deceive.
Why? Like, I should read more about it because I'm sure there's a very interesting story there.
There are books and books about Piltdown Man and like why it happened. And nobody knows who like actually put it together.
Really?
One of the suspects, Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yo. Oh, no, you did.
Damn. Okay.
That was the only name I saw.
I have heard that connection, but I'm going to have to read more.
When Lovecraft mentions Piltdown Man, it's a throwaway reference to like nod to science people who know about it.
Right.
Definitely did not know.
How long did it take?
1955 or something.
Okay.
It was a Time magazine.
Okay.
They did the work. They did a bunch of like spectroscopy on it. They found evidence of acid to like to age all of the bones to make them all look kind of the same.
Okay, so that's interesting. It took decades.
Now there was like suspicion in like if you were in science, like you were in the Royal Academy, you're like, I don't know about this one.
Right. This is a little bit too. This is not a missing link. Like you don't just have.
And that's the thing. It was
jaw that does not evolve, where the rest of something else. Yeah.
And it was like, look, it fits perfect. Well, it fits perfect because.
That's
chunks of it was shaved off.
Clue, because nothing ever fits perfect.
Yeah, and then like the fossilized chimp teeth were like kind of a giveaway, like that were set into the jaw.
Why would they do that? That's so interesting.
So it was like the motives are unclear. The person who did it is unclear.
People do weird shit all the time.
Probably just for notoriety.
Of whom though?
Theory I have, and this
is becoming a Piltdown Man podcast.
It is a Piltdown Man podcast. At the time, a human evolution was kind of a touchy subject. You'll have to recall that the Scopes trial is only 5 years off right, from this moment. So Scopes Child, 1925.
The only thing I was going to say was that what's terrifying to me is that the Scopes trial could happen today.
Exactly. So this is a good time to remember that at one point in America, theocratic thinking was definitely a thing.
At what point?
In the 20s, Claire.
Yeah. The 20,
I'm sorry.
20?
Which 20s? Yes, both.
Yeah.
So... so like it was controversial, and so like that's maybe their heart was in the right place. It was like a political move to say like, no, look, I have proof of the missing link, so now shut the fuck up about it. Like, let's actually pursue this, thinking that like in the future, this sham is not going to last, but it buys you some room, right, to like actually prove it. Okay, I'm going to do a little scam science now to make way for the real science.
Scam for the good.
Right, because like what's my alternative? Theocracy. Anyway, there's a mention.
We ended up with a theocracy anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, Piltdown Man. Sorry, Arthur Conan Doyle.
You failed. So anyway, the Piltdown Man mention was like, whoa, hang on. And right next to Neanderthal, because Neanderthal was also fairly new, and I will pronounce it Neanderthal. Until the day I die, because I don't pronounce it Paris, I pronounce it Paris, because I'm a goddamn American.
That was pretty hot. Say it again.
What, Paris?
Oh, yeah. Actually, no, you kind of sounded like a Disney character there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Soup du jour, hot hors d'oeuvre. Why, we only live to serve.
So anyway, at the end, so he sees that. Oh, he incidentally sees a monster come out of the ocean.
Right. Yeah.
Who's like enormous, by the way. Like there's a depiction of the monster that he sees killing a whale, and the whale's only like a little bit bigger than him. So he's definitely Godzilla sized.
Yeah.
He sees the monster. He passes out. He wakes up. He's in San Francisco.
No. Let's go back.
Okay.
He's like, essentially what happens is he sees this monster. Mm-hmm. It runs up and like gives this monolith a hug.
And he does like a he bows to it.
Yes, he gives and then he's so horrified. I'm like, of all the things that have happened, that is the least horrifying. That's the most interesting thing. I'm like, I would at least be hiding behind a rock. I mean, like, what is this? It's not an octopus with legs.
It's not an octopus with legs. It's not like a SpongeBob character.
Well, that's less scary. He kind of elides. Is that the word? I haven't used that in a while. Elides over this monster, which in my head, I thought it was a giant octopus, but now it's like, oh, it was one of the giant humanoids. Was it, whatever it was, it had a scaly arm, and it came up and
hugged the monolith.
Like, to me, that's like, oh, I would not immediately find that threatening. He threw its arms around it, right?
He does. He throws his scaly arm around the monolithic structure.
It's either a hug or if it's one arm, then it's a
bro thing.
Then it's a bro. Yeah, I love this guy.
About which, okay, so hang on. Vast I cannot say that damn word. Polyphemus? Polyphemus. You did it.
That's the one-eyed son of Poseidon or something?
Yeah. Right? He's a bad guy in the Odyssey, which
of course he's a bad guy because he's got one eye.
Because he's got just the one eye.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is another seafaring tale. So I like that part too.
History's written by the winners.
Mm-hmm. Justice for Polyphemus.
Yes. Fake news.
So vast, Polyphemus-like, and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
I know. He was like, I love you.
I love this guy.
You're the best. Yeah, he was. It does not sound threatening to me, but I'm not Lovecraft.
I went mad then. And so he goes back to his boat. He was singing when he went and laughing when he couldn't sing anymore.
What was he singing?
I'm here with my dad, and we never met, and he wants me to sing him a song.
He mentions Phantasm, which as I was reading that, I was like, I would
We
like
should
to go watch
Phantasm.
Phantasm tonight.
Yeah, maybe it was a Phantasm, and that is, Phantasm is, I would say, top 10 Lovecraftian movies ever made, right? And it's not a Lovecraft story.
I had never, I mean, I remember in high school, a bunch of the, cool guys, by that, because I went to a high school full of like 200 people, the guys talking about the movie Phantasm. And I was like, whatever. Okay, what is this? It must be some devil thing or something. Then I saw Phantasm once I met Todd Beardsley.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is super dumb, but also super amazing. So then maybe I was like, oh, I got to watch Phantasm.
It had like 5 sequels, so.
Yeah, but we're talking about the original one with like...
If I could just have we should just have a Phantasm podcast, like as a bonus episode. We should have a schedule that is consistent enough that we can have bonus episodes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to review the Phantasm movies.
If you haven't seen Phantasm, dear listener, if you were born after, I don't know, 2000, you probably have never even heard of Phantasm. Go watch it. It is the most Lovecraftian thing ever.
It doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. It might be a dream. Yeah, so he might have dreamed the whole thing, but he wakes up in San Francisco in a hospital, and again, it's 1919. Hospitals are kind of, abattoirs, basically. It's like not a great place to be.
People sawing things.
Yes. And he gets hooked on morphine because it's the only thing that dulls the pain. But every time there's a gibbous moon, like he freaks out.
What does that mean?
All right. So the waxing gibbous moon is the period. I don't know why I had to look this up. I knew this, but I just froze when asked. It is that period between full and half. That's it. It's 3/4.
Okay.
But it's not actually 3/4. It's like that whole period. So
right.
There's like 4 or 5 days.
As it's happening.
Yes. So that is waxing gibbous. So it is not a full moon, which is the traditional, spooky time.
Right.
It's not the new moon, which is another traditional spooky time. Mm-hmm. It is the waxing gibbous, not the waning gibbous. Waxing means it gets bigger.
He was like, I have to find a time that is not already claimed by spooky stories.
By werewolves and ghosts and stuff. This is
my time.
This is for the deep ones. It's the waxing gibbous.
Yes.
And then he throws himself out a window, and that's it. He dies.
How high up was he?
I don't know. High enough. I guess.
So I didn't get that he threw himself out the window. The end is near. I hear a noise at the door as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me. God, that hand.
The window.
Oh, he's saying the window.
The window.
Like that's okay. I don't know. I thought it was just like the window. The window.
What, you're just naming things in the room?
I don't know. Yeah, that hand.
It's like good night moon, basically.
It's good night window. Good night hand.
Good night monster.
Good night socks. I'm sorry for those of you who like that story. It's so dumb. I hate it.
It'll be another bonus episode. Good night moon.
Oh my God. Yeah, you should. Yeah, for sure.
Good night waxing gibbous moon.
Good night nobody. That's creepy as shit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's some demon that lives there.
Mr. Nobody.
That's right.
Good night.
So that's it. That's the whole story.
That's good. I like that one.
So people will point to this as like, oh, this is the first story in the Cthulhu mythos where it
was the first one published as he was an adult. That's what I read.
Oh, yeah. I guess it would be. Yeah.
Is what I liked very much. It's a little bit coming of age. You could certainly interpret it that way. I'm sure that's not how he meant it. No one thinks.
Sure.
When you are at that age, you're not thinking, oh, I'm coming of age.
I'm doing it.
Yeah. But I can see that.
But yeah, this is like I'm scared of the sea kind of period that essentially he rewrites this story in the form of Call of Cthulhu. He takes in Call of Cthulhu and Shadow over Innsmouth, right? Shadow over Innsmouth has the fish monster men, and Call of Cthulhu has the unspeakable island that rises from the Pacific. So like both those components get reused later. But this was, as I think everyone now, well, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people who pay attention to Lovecraft will tell you it's like there was no cinematic universe. Like he did not give two wits about having like a continuity of story, with the exception of Randolph Carter and the Dreamlands, which we'll do a Dreamlands episode, I think, pretty soon because it's been a while since we've been to the Dreamlands. But yeah, like if you want to read this as like part of this trilogy, right, of Dagon, Shadow over Innsmouth, Call of Cthulhu, go right ahead. But they're actually three different stories.
And I'm still I'm sorry, you can cut this all up, but this is actually interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
So this was kind of based on a dream he had.
Correct.
Was it like did he have a recurring dream about this, or was it just one dream he had that then kind of informed all of these later stories? Or
I don't know. I think it was a particularly like disturbing dream, which tells me that it's like if he's effectively an adult, especially in 1919, and being 19 or 18 or 20 or whatever he is, that it's probably recurring. I mean, people don't have like one scary dream and then write it down, right? Like unless you're Tennyson, I guess.
Oh no, we talked about it the other day. I have one particular scary dream that has evolved over the years.
Yeah, but it's like it happens over and over and over again, and then you eventually like write it down or use it as
the character not move to Iowa?
I know. Because he got hooked on morphine. He was in San Francisco.
No, you're not going to get there.
No, you're not getting out of town.
No.
I mean, if you're going to be on morphine in 1919, like San Francisco is probably the best place to be.
Yeah, you're not going to go to Des Moines.
No. And I don't think we have really anything else to talk about with this story, but I have a
lot of editing on this one. I think.
I will have a lot of editing. We are out of practice. We've had like one calamity and tragedy after the other, and it's very boring, and we won't go into it, but hopefully we'll get
boring.
I mean, it's not boring for us, but it's definitely boring for you. Hopefully we'll hit a better schedule like we had during COVID. If only COVID would come back. I'm wishing on my monkey's paw as hard as I can.
Oh no!
That I'll have enough time.
Please do not wish on that Scopes monkey paws trial.
Yes, the Scopes monkey's paw trial. That'd be a good mashup. We have gotten, since we came back, we have gotten a couple tweets, DMs, couple of emails. Most of it is like, hey, glad you're back, and hooray, you're back. And I'm thank you so much. That actually means a lot to me. I had one tweet that we failed to cover last time we talked.
What?
I know. And it is Jack from England.
What?
I know. Wrote in after we bagged on England so hard in this episode. And he says that he just got into Lovecraft during COVID, and he specifically wanted to share how he got involved with Lovecraft. And he likes our episode, he likes our shows and all that stuff, because he's like, this is all new to him, right? And I'm going to quote here from his DM. My gateway into Lovecraft was actually a really fun BBC radio series where some fictional true crime-ish podcasters explore mysteries that turn out to be cosmic nightmares. Not sure if you'd know it or if it's your thing, but be interested to see your take on it as someone steeped in the more traditional tellings of the story. And so the podcast...
I will absolutely listen to this now.
So I looked it up. I've never heard of it before. And so it's called The Lovecraft Investigations. It's from BBC Radio 4. It's on Spotify and probably other places. But that's the link he gave me, was a Spotify link.
Jack.
And we'll look into it.
I know it sounds like we'll look into this is la la la, but no, Jack, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
This is the next thing I'm actually going to listen to.
Well, that's great.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love crime. I love spookiness. I love England.
Every time I walk in on Claire
will
in a
not-
room where I was not in, it is a true crime podcast.
I love England so much. I will not do my awful English accent.
Thank you. It is very bad. So's mine. But
This governor is in there.
yeah. Pip pip and the Cheerio and all that. So thank you so much, Jack, for writing in. And
Hey, Sean Patrick, we haven't forgotten about you.
oh, he gave us a heads up after
Is he
our
gone?
No.
He out?
No, he's not out. He's like, hey, cool, you're back. Like, and that was it. Like, it was like
Okay.
very short. So but yeah, Sean
Okay, so
Patrick
we've got Jack and Sean Patrick.
and your mom.
And my mom, obviously.
And
my
my
mom
pal.
and my dad.
My pal Eric at work.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's 5 right
Jack, Sean Patrick, Beth, Tom, Eric. We love you.
there. Thank you. Yes, we do. We really do. Man, you're going to make me cry. And so that's it. That's the episode. This is the fade out music is happening now. I can actually do it in line. Here, hang on. All right. We can fade out here. Thank you, Claire, for talking about Lovecraft with me. And we'll catch you next time. Don't know if it's next week, next month, but next time. In the fullness of the cosmic history of things. This is all basically instantaneous. So,
Happened yesterday.
yeah.